Get ready for a no BS approach to health and fitness. This is NBS Fitness Radio.
All right, I am back with Jeremy Pittman of Pittman PT. How long have you been a physical therapist, and how long have you owned your practice?
You're gonna make me start off with math.
That's right.
So I graduated in 1998, so we'll say 25 years as a physical therapist. Started my own practice back in 2007.
Okay. What's like the biggest change you've seen in the arc of PT since you've been in it 2.5 decades?
Wow. So just the boom of the number of people that actually come to utilize our services is huge, and the knowledge base of the consumer now, because when we first started, we've had our first child, that child cost us $10. We didn't care about healthcare, but now as deductibles have gone up and people are shelling more money out of their own pockets, you see a different level of consumerism. Where people are less likely to get the $2,500 MRI. They'll try some conservative care first, which is really cool. Which has helped us because I'd say 50 to 60% of our patients are direct access off the street.
Yeah, I mean they have not been referred to you by a doctor.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
So there's 25 years. I think it's what was it like 25 years ago? Was it that people were less aware of like what PTs could do for them, so instead they were going like straight to their doctor?
I think that's the number one battle that we still face, is just the lack of knowledge of what PTs do, and I want to get into that a little bit deeper with you, simply because like the general consensus of the general public right now is like, if my back hurts, I either go to my doctor or my chiropractor. Right.
Yeah.
I mean, because they've done well at putting themselves as the professionals of choice for that diagnosis.
Right.
But what we've tried to accomplish over the last, I'd say 10 years of being in the practice, is to make the consumer, the patients, aware that they can come to see us first, and they do not have to have a referral from a physician to actually walk in our door and to get assessed, and that we can do a lot of the same things that other disciplines do, but we combine it with a lot of other things to get the best outcomes.
What happened pre-physical therapy? Would you just go to the doctor and would they do tissue work, or is it just purely medicinal recovery methods? Like I'm saying, like in the 70s, 80s.
Yeah. So there was a lot of bed rest going on back in those days, and physical therapy back in the 70s and 80s, prior to healthcare changing the way healthcare did. I would say it was bad PT, which gave us a bad rap because insurance companies were paying out the wazoo for hot packs and ultrasound and e-stim, right? And so we've had to change the way we practice to get better outcomes, to prove that we're doing stuff. But prior to the direct access push over the last 4 or 5 years, we're actually getting those patients in and helping them to not have the injections, medications, imaging, surgeries. I'll tell you, I mean, we actually have a commercial out on like, I don't even know, live stream TV now. It tells you so you go to your doctor, all right? The doctor gives you medicine. You go back to the doctor 2 weeks later. If you're not better, then you do imaging, right? And then you go back to the doctor, and if the imaging looks bad, you go see the specialist. And then you get more medication along the way, and 6 to 8 weeks later, you actually finally get to your therapist, where we can actually start helping you, right? Versus coming to the physical therapist first. If we work with you for a couple of weeks, we know whether or not you're going to respond to conservative management, and then we can bypass that 6-week wait time, get you straight to the specialist, because now they know that you need something in addition.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, just cutting the curve down is what our mission is right now.
So then kind of share with people, what do PTs do?
Wow. So that's a really tough question, because another thing that the general public doesn't know is there's several subspecialties of physical therapy, just like there are of any typical medicine. So you would go to your cardiologist if you had a heart problem. You go to an orthopedist if you had a bone problem. You go to your rheumatologist if you have really bad arthritis, right? You have a pulmonologist. So all of those subspecialties, you can basically say there's a subspecialty of physical therapy for each one of those. So if you're a child, you go see a pediatric specialist, right? If you're older, you can go see a geriatric specialist. If you want a cardiac rehab, you go to a cardiac rehab specialist. We have pulmonologists. We have women's health that do OBGYN. So there's lots of different subspecialties. But what we do at Pittman Physical Therapy is specialized in orthopedics and balance.
Gotcha. Okay. So what are some common issues that you guys treat within those two pieces?
in the realm of the weekend warrior, we got a lot of back pain, a lot of shoulder strains, and a lot of knee issues. Because those are super common. Sciatica is one of the biggest things that we get to work on. I have to tell people all the time, sciatica is not a diagnosis. And I think that's what you came to your doctor to. You went to your doctor saying, I have pain in my legs. Like, oh, you got sciatica. We try to figure out why you have sciatica. Because there's about 5 different things that can cause that. So we don't treat that. We try to go a little bit deeper and treat the symptoms. But those are the main things that we really get. And we're getting more and more young athletes because they're specializing so early, and so you get a lot of those overuse injuries, and they're not training the whole body. I'd say a lot of our baseball players right now that we're seeing for arm issues, it manifests as an elbow or a shoulder problem, but when you dive deep into that person, it's a hip or a core issue, and all of that problem is culminating into elbow issues.
Where's the break? So when it comes to like youth athletes, where's the breakdown? Is it? I mean, obviously, early specialization's not a good thing, but I mean, I think you can make the argument that early specialization done in an intelligent way, you would still be able to reduce injury risk.
I would agree with that statement 100%.
So is it just kind of a general lack of knowledge amongst youth athletes, youth parents, youth coaches? Is it a man, I kind of know? Is it the lack of knowledge, or is it like the necessity for winning that just kind of like, well, hey, I know you get this pitch count, or we should be doing this other stuff, but we need you to.
Yeah, we need to win this weekend.
We need to win this weekend. What's the combination of factors causing those?
Well, so I actually had a good conversation with a high school coach the other day. It's like when you're in school and you're working with the school program, they have like, you have pitch coaches, and you have hitting coaches, and you have fielding coaches, and then you have strength and conditioning coach, and they're all working with you during the school year, which is, you're looking at 6 months of a school season. Then you're doing your off-season workouts, but then you go to summer ball, and a lot of people will stop everything that they've been doing to keep their body, in tip-top condition, and then they just go play 6 games in 3 days. And we're not prepared for that. So you got to keep that regimen going. And one thing that we're looking at right now is like, how can we help these kids to understand where their weaknesses are, so that they can continue to strengthen those on their own without a coach.
So, like currently, like you're saying, one of the issues is that essentially they're doing the intelligent things during the season. School ball is inherently built to protect them, because you're not playing tournaments during school ball.
Right.
You're playing 2 or 3 games a week, whatever.
Right.
You also have a strength and conditioning coach. You have like a full group of people working with you. But then you're just kind of being transferred from one end season to another end season in tournament ball, which lacks the inherent like safety precautions of the schedule, and in fact it compounds the issues by, instead of having an off season and then your body gets some bit of a break, it's like now you're just playing more, and then you also lack like the the resources of the strength and conditioning coach and all that kind of stuff that would exist in in a school.
Right. You have a lot of optional training days that you can go to, but again, they're optional. But if you look at, I mean, pitchers are probably the most commonly and most well-known injured athletes in a baseball setting. You know, if we talk about other sports, we can talk about different positions. But I think everybody would understand that Tommy John surgeries and shoulder issues in pitchers are really, really big. But if you look at a high school the size of Collierville, right? And I know that a lot of schools aren't as big and they don't have as deep of a pitching rotation. But even the stud pitcher in Collierville High is only going to pitch like once every 5 days. Yeah. Right. And then a bullpen pitcher might come in and throw 3 innings every 7 days. Yeah. And then you go into tournament ball, and that stud pitcher or even that bullpen pitcher goes from 3 innings every 7 days to 90 pitches. Yeah. 2 days rest, 90 pitches. Yeah. And if you're not prepared for that, things are going to break down.
What's the understanding and communication like between the high school coaches and the tournament coaches?
I don't know. I mean, for our purposes, I know there's zero communication. I have a son that plays batted ball. Thank God he's not a pitcher, so we don't really have to deal with those injuries. We deal with different injuries. Yeah. But I don't know that there was really any communication. Now, there could be at the very top of the chain between the high school coaches and the head of the organization, but as far as the individual coaches, that all trickles down from the top.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense. So, how do you guys go about like addressing an injury? A high school kid comes in day one, says my elbow hurts. Mm-hmm. Yeah. How do you ensure it's not some type of broken bone or something that would require them to be sent off? Yeah.
So when I would say that when I got out of school back in 1998, there was no way. Yeah. Right. Because it was a 2-year degree program. And nowadays there are built-in primary care for physical therapists. So there's an entire screening that you do and you go through to address any potential, major issues that may exist. Yeah. And it could be a broken bone. It could be a tumor. There's certain things that you do during an assessment to rule in or rule out something that necessitates a referral onto somebody that is needing that imaging. Okay. So you take through the assessment. Right. Then just walk me through the process. Kid comes in, my elbow hurts. Walk me through that process. Well, the biggest thing is I'll say most kids don't talk. So you gotta eliminate the parent from the and get the kid on you talk on their level. You have to get like a real good history, and you got to keep asking. You're asking me tons of great questions, right? So you got to keep asking those questions to break it down, because they're going to tell you if it's something major or it's not. You don't have to touch anybody most of the time with some experience to know whether or not something's really bad. Yeah. So once you get that really good history, we do a really good full body assessment to try to figure out where is this pain actually coming from. So if somebody comes in with the elbow, we're going to check the elbow, we're going to check the neck, we're going to check the shoulder, we'll look at the hips, we'll look at the core. We even sometimes, we watch them walk in, they're completely flat-footed. We'll go all the way down to the feet to look at an elbow injury, just because pain lies. Yeah. I mean, if nobody else gets anything else out of this podcast right now, pain is a liar, because if anybody has ever had a trigger point in a muscle somewhere, it's the easiest way. It can refer pain anywhere. Yeah. Well, think about trigger point. People don't even understand the complexity of the human body, but with all the ligaments and tendons and muscles and bones and nerves that go everywhere, it could be coming from anywhere. Yeah. And I would say the best example of that is like, where do women feel heart attacks? If people learn this all the time, women feel heart attacks in their backs or in their chest, right? Men will a lot of times have arm pain, right? And neck pain, and sometimes up in the face. Yeah. Well, where's the heart? Yeah. Heart's right in the middle, right? A little bit to the left. Well, that heart is referring pain out. It's a muscle, right? So, I mean, if we look at that, then we understand that pain lies. So we have to dive deeper to try to figure out exactly where things are coming from.
So you do like the full body assessment, just gotta say where are the potential issues coming from. That this was, in other words, say pain lies. It's not that the place where you're feeling pain is the cause of the pain.
Right.
Yeah. The cause can come from many other places.
Yeah.
That's where you ended up feeling it.
Right. I'm not telling you that you don't have strain of your UCL of your elbow, but your lack of external rotation in your shoulder and your lack of rotation to the right and the lack of left hip strength is causing extra pressure on that ligament. We have to fix all of that because I can make that feel better, but as soon as you go throw again, it's going to come right back if I don't address these other issues.
Yeah, that wasn't the cause of the pain.
Yeah,
that's just where the body broke down.
Correct.
How? What are some common issues you see when you're going through people? Like, what are the common misfunctions or dysfunctions that you see in people?
So if we get off of athletes, I'd say one of the most frustrating things is when a patient comes over and they actually have a referral from a physician and it says shoulder pain, right? And I have to look at it and I'm like, did you go to the doctors and what'd you tell him? You walk in and he said you had shoulder pain. Well, that's what he told me you had. So what did he diagnose you with, right? So, and just, I would say shoulder pain, elbow pain, hand numbness.
So like what are the, not necessarily the pain points, but the dysfunctions?
Oh, like cervical disc issues?
Where you were talking earlier about like someone came in with like flat feet, that would be an issue that caused some other a pain, up the chain.
Right.
Like, what are the common issues you see? The dysfunctions? Is it flat feet, lack of external hip rotation?
Okay. Well, it depends on the patient population, right? So in a female, we'll say female athlete, we're going to look at really significant hip weakness.
Mm-hmm.
It's extremely common. If you look at any of the research out there, the lack of external rotation strength in a female athlete as they're going through 14 to 17 years old is going to definitely increase their propensity to have ACL issues.
Is that caused by puberty? Like what's causing females to have external hip rotation weakness?
If as females go through puberty, their pelvis is going to expand, getting ready for childbirth, because you can start bearing children as soon as you start going through puberty.
Yeah.
Right? So the pelvis is going to change, it's going to get wider, and as a result of that, you have to look this up, everybody. It's called a Q angle. There's an angle between the front bone in your pelvis, your kneecap, and your shin bone, and that angle increases as the pelvis gets wider.
Yeah.
Well, if your knees dive in when you land from a jump or from kicking a ball and your knee dives in, then that's going to put a lot of extra stress on your ACL.
Yeah.
Right? Because ACLs are typically going to be rotational injuries.
Yeah.
Right? So if your hips aren't strong enough to decrease the forces of your knees caving in, then you're going to have a higher propensity for that ACL.
Yeah, 100%. All right, so what were some other dysfunctions you see?
Oh, good Lord. You name it. I'd say right now, the biggest thing that we see is tech neck. You want to talk about something is the invention of a cell phone and a tablet for everybody and their mother to sit with the worst posture ever for hours and hours without reversing that.
Yeah.
Without doing any stretches, without doing any postural control exercises, without doing any rotator cuff. Then you're set up to have cervical disc issues, for rotator cuff issues, for thoracic spine issues, for lumbar disc issues. Just you're set up for failure.
Yeah. Yeah. If you ever look at those like side by sides of people's necks and like prefixing it, where they just have like extreme forward head posture and that cervical, lack of cervical.
Straighten of the cervical.
It's nuts. And then you'll see, someone who's done, extreme stretches or movements for it, and you just see it like self-correct. Like that is nuts.
Yeah. You're a movement specialist. That's what you do. Our bodies are created to move. We're created to run and hunt and gather, right? We're not created to sit in a chair for 7 hours a day and look at a screen or look at our cell phone. And nobody can see me right now if you're listening, but I'm sitting with the worst posture ever looking at my iPhone right now. We're not made to do that, And so we break down when we do that because our bodies need stress.
All right. How many people that you work with when they come in, like how many of them have an awareness of that their issues are just kind of the end result of that?
Most people think that it's a one-time event.
Yeah.
Right? I heard the best quote from Kobe Bryant. It's like, if you got a rock worker and he's working on this rock and he's hit it 1,000 times and he hits 1,001 and it breaks, right? He doesn't celebrate that 1,001th hit. He celebrates the 1,000 hits that he had before that set him up for winning.
Yeah.
Right? So, if you got 10 years of postural problems, nobody wants to hear that.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to hear, this is 20 years in the making.
Yeah.
It's going to take time to fix. Because that's when they like to get those pills. They like to get, instead of actually addressing the problem, they like to mask the problem.
Well, I addressed it though. I mean, I got pain. My neck hurts, my shoulder hurts, whatever it is. You're telling me I'm going to have to come in here and deal with more pain, from training.
Right.
Why not just take an opioid and make the pain go bye-bye?
You could do that, yeah. But at the same time, you could get addicted to the opioid, right? It's going to affect your home life, right? Because if you're already in pain, right, you're not the you that you need to be, right? So that you can't be the you that you need to be to take care of the people that depend on you, right? Have that conversation with moms all the time that never take care of themselves. They mask it. They'll take the ibuprofen. They'll do that because they're running around with the kids, and then they're short with the kids. Their temper is flared. They're not sleeping well. And I finally will sit them down and we'll cry together and be like, hey, how long has it been since you've been the mom that you wanted to be? Yeah. Right? So we're masking all these symptoms right here. Why don't we fix this so you can be the person you need to be, so you can actually give what you think you need to be able to give? Yeah. So it's a little bit deeper than just masking it. Yeah. Plus, I mean, nowadays it's kind of hard to get those opioids unless you're buying them off the street because, unless you're going to a pain management clinic, because the doctors are and the companies and the government, they're getting smarter. Yeah. Because people are addicted. It's running rampant. Yeah.
And I think another thing to understand is, look, if your lack of quality movement has over a long period of time has resulted in this outcome, you can take pain management to address this one outcome. Right. But your ball is going in one direction. So this isn't the first outcome. This isn't the only outcome. Right. It's just going to get worse. Yeah. Your physical degradation is going to continue, and it's going to exacerbate itself until you literally cannot do anything about it. So you can either start now when it'll be uncomfortable, but it will be far less uncomfortable and far easier to travel than if you wait 10 years from now, right, or 20 years from now, whatever it would be.
It's like if we continue down the same path, what is your quality of life going to be in the next 10 years? Yeah.
What's the patient's response? I mean, should you having are they aware? They're having a conversation of like, hey, look, here's what we want to do, and this is what's going to be best for you. Right. But unfortunately, the way your insurance works is I have to authorize every visit, and it takes a week. So unfortunately, I'm at the like wait till I get authorization, schedule your next visit, and it's gonna extend this a bit. Like, what's their response?
And a lot of times we have to cancel that next visit because we don't have it in yet. So it's very frustrating, and the patient. I mean, we do a really good job. My front desk, my front office teammates, they do a really good job of explaining this. Yeah. So that we put the onus on the insurance company, not on us, because we work hard. Yeah. My front desk ladies are fantastic and work to advocate for every patient that walks in the door. So we're working really hard to try to minimize any of that time lapse. We're working it every day. Mm-hmm. Sometimes twice a day. We bug the crap out of the insurance companies to try to get that authorization. Yeah. It's frustrating, and the patients don't understand why, but ultimately we have to look at it and say, this is the insurance that you chose. Yeah, this is what you chose. Yeah. So the other public service announcement that I'll give right now to anybody that's listening from a Medicare standpoint: don't go with one of those Medicare Advantage plans. They're HMOs, and they try to control you with the red, white, and blue Medicare. has the most open network. It's got the best doctors. It's got the most doctors on it, and you don't have to worry about access to care.
Okay, interesting. All right. How's it dealing with Medicare then?
Medicare is great.
They're quick.
Yeah, they're really good. Now they do try to. They haven't given us a raise.
Yeah.
In 10 years, actually, they've given us a pay cut every year for like the last 9 years.
Yeah.
But they're one of the easier payers to work with. I don't sometimes, I can't raise my rates.
Right.
Because I don't control my rates.
Right.
So it does make it a little bit more difficult
Yeah.
to take care, and I don't want to get on the soapbox, but to take care of your employees the way you're supposed to, and without burning anybody out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because they are giving us cuts every year, but guess what? Rent goes up,
Yeah.
prices go up, inflation goes up, salaries go up, healthcare costs go up as an employer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only way you can deal with that is by increasing volume, which then stresses all that already. So
Exactly.
it's like stresses it doesn't stressing that volume without increased margin leads to poor, can lead to poor service just because you're kind of forced into that.
We have to walk a really fine line.
Yeah.
Right. Because we don't want to burn anybody out, but yet we still have to keep the doors open.
Yeah.
And we are a business. Businesses' lifeblood is cash.
Yeah.
Right. We have to make money as a business in
Yeah.
order to be able to serve more people.
Yeah.
So it's a fine line.
I can't remember where I heard this, but it was saying the reason that most insurance companies do not lean towards preventative care is because the average person is only on any one insurance plan for 5 years.
That's interesting.
And that most care costs are going to occur, post age 65.
Right.
So it is in their best interest to not pay for any preventive care, just deal with whatever things pop up, because they know eventually you're going to be passed off their plan to another plan or to Medicare at some point.
I can totally see that.
So-
I can totally see that because people don't health insurance shop as much as they might car insurance shop, because it really doesn't matter. It's going to be expensive anyway.
Yeah.
You're not gonna go from Aetna to Blue Cross and save $500 like you can go from Progressive to Geico. Right?
Yeah, right.
It just doesn't work that way. But I can definitely see that side of the coin.
And it's they're not. No one is a true long-term client for insurance companies. Typically, it's like the majority of your costs as the majority of your cost to an insurance company is going to occur age 65 plus when you're not on anyone's insurance plan anyways.
Well, maybe that's why healthcare's profit margin was like $13 million last year.
So I was like, wow, okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense now that you said that. Tell me about the new machine that you got. I got a chance to go and check it out, the Proteus machine.
Yeah, thanks for coming by and working out on the things. It's really cool. So it's a combination of 360-degree resistance and AI technology and a cloud-based software system.
Yeah.
So really, the Proteus machine is software machine that takes data collection to a whole new level. So where we see this going is the ability to assess not only athletes but the general population and actually show them empirical data of how strong they are, what their power looks like, what their speed looks like, what their deficits are, and then how to specifically train for those deficits.
Yeah.
So it's really cool for an athletic population that's trying to say a football program that's trying to develop a lot of kids that go play D1 ball, right? I can since it's a cloud-based software, every person that ever tests on it gets put into a database.
Yeah.
So I can literally do a test on you as an 18-year-old football lineman that is 6'5", 280, and rank your score based on every other high school lineman that is in your height and weight class.
Yeah.
And see how you compare.
Yeah.
And then with a click of a button, I can change it to collegiate and show you where you need to be.
Yeah. That's awesome.
And so it's a motivation tool, but it's also a training and assessment tool that can be utilized in any numerous sports. You know, football, basketball, baseball, it's golf, volleyball. So it's a really, plus we can train on it.
Yeah.
So it's not only for our elite athletic populations. It can dial down as low as 1 pound of resistance, and so I'm gonna use some big words right now: concentric and eccentric. So if we look at our arm and we bend our elbow up toward our head, that's a concentric motion. If we lower it back down, that's eccentric for our bicep. So it never loads a muscle eccentrically, which is where a lot of damage can happen.
Yeah.
So we're able to train everybody up to 90 plus. I mean, anybody to any age, we can train with dialed in pound resistance without the worry of damaging any muscle tissue.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I think what's really cool about it is you think about previous athletic tests, and we'll use like the combine for example.
Right.
When you would do something like a bench press test.
Yeah.
Which is a simulation of what you might experience on the line of football.
Correct.
But it's not exact a simulation as the Proteus machine. And so it gives you a more clear assessment of like true athletic ability, because you are able to move in 360 degrees or 365 degrees. And completely free motion. It is more athletic movement versus versus more like singular plane stuff that you'd see in the gym.
Yeah.
And then I also like it, you know, when I think through like how PT has changed over the years. So 20 years ago, being I was in high school and college playing ball, and if you got injured, the assessment was like, what hurts? This hurts. Okay, you have 2 options, or like 4 options. We can stim it,
Right.
we can ultrasound it, we can heat it, or we can ice it. It was all just, you know, just tissue inflammation and handling.
Just a bunch of passive modalities.
Yeah, passive modalities, and then there was never any real assessment going back to like, okay, well, like, why did this happen in the first place?
Right.
And then sort of to see how like technology has come around the last 20 years. It's not only like, well, we could use this to in part of your rehabilitation program,
Right.
but we can also use it to assess, hey, how do we keep you from coming back in here?
Yeah.
Like, how can we, yes, hey, you had a pulled hamstring. We can see reasons for that, and we can develop it. But let's go ahead and like do an assessment to see where is another potential injury coming up, and give you a clearer picture of like what you need to do to address that.
Right. The pre-injury assessments is where I think this tool is the most powerful, because I see it being 2 things, maybe even 3, depending on where my brain goes right now. So we do a pre-injury assessment. We can figure out like where you're strongest, where you're weakest, and we can develop a program for that. Then we can retest and see if you're actually making progress toward that. And we continue to train and get better and better and better, and we're constantly doing these assessments to figure out where you are. Well, guess what? You get hurt, right? You have to go in, you have to go through rehab, and we can start using the machine. But we know exactly where you need to get back to.
Yeah.
You know, because we have objective data saying this is where you left off. This is where we need to get you back to.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah.
I also love it for I hate to use the terminology non-athlete.
Everybody's an athlete.
Yeah, I think there's kind of a misconception that like, oh well, that's great for athletes. I think the statement is, the skills and capacities don't change. It's just the magnitude of those. Meaning, everyone should be able to run, okay, and be the capacity to use the skill of running in both a sprint and then a longer aerobic based run. In other words, everyone at every age should be able to sprint and run long distance. The magnitude of that would change, meaning a 90-year-old sprint speed is going to be significantly different than a 20-year-old sprint speed.
Yeah.
But everyone should be able to do it. And I think the thing I love about that is that it is kind of showing people like, okay, hey, these are the way that your body should move.
Yeah.
Let's test how you find. Oh man, like there's some real room for improvement here. As you kind of see, like, man, I can't really jump that well. Mine was like, wow, I suck at jumping side to side.
Why am I so bad at jumping? Yeah.
So I was like, okay, like it shows like, to me it showed like, hey, this thing you haven't done in a while. Like even though I'm obviously training.
Yeah.
But my training has not been in some of the more like athletic movements you'd see on the field with like side to side movements. Like, okay, well, yeah, that was an area I haven't trained in probably 10 years.
Yeah. So the beauty of it is it does take into account and the resistance is such that those rotational movements that we do. I mean, if you think about, you know, as simple as reaching into a cabinet, like nothing in our world is a straight plane movement.
Yeah.
Reaching into a cabinet, you might say, well, that's a straight plane movement. No, you're going to turn your hips about 45 degrees to the left to reach into the cabinet with your right arm, and it becomes a diagonal movement. Yeah. Right? Putting on your seatbelt, you know, it's total what we call PNF patterning. You know, that's exactly the way we move. And so this machine gives us the ability to not only assess those movements, to see how strong or how powerful or you know, how fast you can move, but it allows us to train that movement because it's totally functional. Yeah. And going back to your insurance companies, one of the ways that I see us being able to use that is for our non-athletic population, being able to assess our patients on a regular basis, and now we have objective data to send to the insurance company saying he's not done it. Yeah, this is where he is. Like this is where most people need to be. This is where he is. You know, we have more time. Yeah. You know.
Okay, so in that realm, like most PTs offices do not have that type of machine. So like, how does an insurance company now deal with like a new technology coming into the space?
I don't know. That's their problem. That's their problem. We're gonna give it to them though.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, we're fortunate enough to be the only Proteus facility this side of Nashville in the state of Tennessee.
That's awesome.
So we're really excited about the new technology and the way we can put it to use for not only our athletic population but our general population.
Do you see yourself using it as kind of like a diagnostic tool for everyone coming in, or would you use it more as specific needs or patient choice? Like, how do you see yourself kind of like using it going forward?
Well, going back to the 4 phases of healing. I mean, we're not going to put anybody in pain through an assessment. Simply because their numbers are going to be really low and they might not be able to have the range of motion in order to assess it. So once we get somebody out of pain, then we can throw that in to utilize that data to get a starting point of where their strength is. Yeah. You know, because pain stops strength. Muscles shut down when you're in pain. Yeah. So we got to get out of the pain, and then we can actually really assess strengths and imbalances. Mm.
So kind of use it in that like second, third phase.
Right.
But I mean, do you think you'd put like everyone through it?
Yeah, that's the goal.
That's the goal?
That's the goal. About visit 6 is about where somebody needs to have an assessment done.
That's cool. Yeah. That's cool. Have you, so on the machine, there's some preset assessments, and they're generally based off of sport. Right. How do you see yourself kind of like putting the correct assessment for a non-sport specific
well, it comes preloaded with football, skill position, football lineman, you know, baseball, volleyball. There are some like shoulder assessments. Yeah. So there's a built-in for shoulder or elbow or just general power test. Yeah. That are preloaded, but being a software that is highly malleable, I can get on my laptop and I can create an exam. Yeah. And you know, boop, 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 it goes through the cloud and it's on the computer. It's on the machine. So I can create any exam for any patient population. Adjust the weights that we need to. So if we're doing the baseball exam and it's for a collegiate athlete, we need to drop that weight down if we're doing it on a 12-year-old. Yeah. Okay. Right. So we're able to modify or adjust any tests that are in there, but also we can create custom tests.
I feel like I got gypped because I did a baseball assessment. And I played college football.
Okay.
I feel like I would have gotten a more accurate test if I had done the football lineman test.
Okay. Well, I tell you what, the football lineman test I think is really cool. You brought up bench pressing 225 pounds X number of times. I mean, the last 4 reps really are worthless because you can't get away from a block if you're pushing at 1 mile an hour trying to lift something. But the way this test is set up is it's a constant resistance, and it's measuring how fast you can move this weight from here to there and with what velocity and force.
Yeah.
Right? Which is a lot more specific to if you're trying to come off the line and jam somebody and get away from them.
Yeah.
But the P&F pattern goes from one hand to a 2-hand, like you're going up and across.
Yeah.
The football test is really cool.
That's cool.
Football test is really cool.
Is there a way to do eccentric strength on it at all?
No, it does not do any eccentric.
Okay, so only does the concentric movement. But the concentric movement in all directions, I think is important for people to understand.
Yeah.
That's awesome. What kind of movements do you think you'd put on like this general population test?
So we would be able to assess like from kneeling to standing, sit to stand, general rotation, overhead press, rotation, and then I would do a single arm reach or a single arm push.
Like a crossbody or
either a crossbody or just a straight push pull or a single arm overhead movement.
Very cool. Yeah, that's awesome. So as people age, where do you see the necessity for? Where do you see the necessity for kind of filling in the gaps? Like in the elderly population, what are the kind of common things you're seeing people for, and like what can they do to address those?
I'd say the most common thing that we're seeing in our older population is just balance and fall issues. Like I do regular talks at some of the not assisted living but the active living communities, and the number one thing that asked me to come in is to talk about balance and falls. And the thing that everybody should understand is like if you don't use it, you lose it. I mean, it's 100%, right? We're able to be strong at 80 years old if we continue to train to be strong. We can continue to keep our balance if we keep our hips and our knees and our back strong and we practice balancing. The problem is we get sedentary when we retire. We stop moving the way we should, and then we start to be a little unsteady. So what does that do? It makes our gait pattern shrink. So now we're shuffling our feet, which makes us more prone to fall. So that's the main thing, is like making people understand that you don't have to live like this. We can improve your quality of life. We can help your balance. We can get you stronger, and that way you're not fearful when you're out and about doing things. Which will lead to them being able to be more active.
I've had a lot of conversations with people over the years who are quite aware of that. It's not a lack of knowledge, but yet they're still resistant to change. How have you dealt with that, and why do you think that is?
I deal with it on a daily basis as my father-in-law lives with me. And to get him to walk down to get his own newspaper is like pulling teeth. But it's just forcing him to be consistent, because my father-in-law is a patient of our practice because his back hurts and his balance sucks. So we force him to come into the clinic twice a week, and he hates every minute of it. But I noticed when I dropped him back off the house on Monday, instead of me pulling up and grabbing his newspaper for him and driving all the way up the driveway, he said, just pull into the cove and let me out. And he got out and got his paper and he walked himself up the driveway. So whether or not he wants to admit it, he's getting better. So just having that support system in place for our aging parents, and just to let them know that, hey, no, this is something that you need to do, and I love you, and we're going to do it because I want you to have the quality of life that you need.
Why do you think he hates it?
because he likes sitting in his chair drinking coffee.
Yeah.
You know, it's comfort. It's
Yeah.
comfort.
Yeah.
You know, we're creatures of habit. You know, I don't work out the way I should work out because I got out of the habit. I got hurt and I got out of the habit. But you do it every day because that's your habit.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just breaking those old habits and building a new one. And you know, it takes, you know as well as I do, it takes a good 7 months to really reinforce a habit.
Yeah.
You know, so if I'm gonna go to the gym 3 times a week, I got to do it consistently for 7 months, or else I'm gonna fall off the wagon very quickly.
Yeah.
I can't go for 2 months and think that I'm good.
Yeah. Well, and I think that there is in reality, like the habit of fitness is, it is, you don't use it, you lose it. So if you created it and then for whatever reason you got knocked off tracks, like you have to recreate it.
Yeah. It's hard.
You don't maintain it at all.
Yeah. Plus, you don't have that. I mean, once you retire, you don't have that built-in accountability anymore. So you don't have to wake up to an alarm clock and get up and go to work and build that. So you have to completely change everything.
Yeah.
And it's easier not to.
Yeah. Yeah. I've thought like, and I try to have these conversations, and it's interesting that the people who are open to change are very open about their mental state or psychology or reasoning. You can have an open conversation and they'll tell you about it. Sometimes the people who are resistant to change aren't as open about having discussions about why they're resistant to change. But I see a desire not to be uncomfortable. You know, it's like this is gonna be uncomfortable. I don't want to be uncomfortable. You know, and I think there's a lot of reasons for that ingrained notion in people. I also think there's a degree of like, it would force me to come face to face with my current state compared to where I was. In other words, it's like I'm going to have to face the reality that I'm getting worse. I'm degrading. I'm aging.
I'm not 18 anymore.
Yeah, I'm not 18 anymore. Which is sad because it's like that just amplifies the speed at which you age.
Right.
It just speeds it up. It's like, no, you're not 18 anymore, but you could significantly slow this process down if you wanted to. Like you can maintain all physical abilities needed to go through like day-to-day living.
Well, that's very interesting. One of the girls that worked for me, I think she started becoming a traveling physical therapy assistant about 6 years ago. Her father has won the Senior Olympics in swimming for like the last 6 years, and he's now 76 years old. She sent me a video the other day because she was there with her dad. He was winning again.
Yeah.
Right. She sent me of the 85 and older volleyball tournament. Yeah. And these guys, I mean, if you think you can't do it, you should watch these guys because they're not only jumping and spiking, but they're diving for balls at 85 plus, right? Nobody told them they can't.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the thing. It's like we get a mental barrier that says I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And it's just an obstacle, right?
Yeah. I think that it's important for people have gotten the notion that like that loss of physical ability is not a choice.
Yeah.
I was like, look, aging is a consequence of getting older.
Right.
You know, and in that there's going to be, you're going to have a decrease in output. You're just not going to be as strong at 90 as you were at 20 or whatever.
Right.
But that doesn't mean a loss of function. You should, if done well, if done correctly throughout your life, you should die with all the functions you had that you were born with. In other words, you should still be able to run, you should be able to jump, get up off the ground, to move freely and operate in space and to be able to explore the world. You may do it a little bit slower,
right?
But you can still do it. And I think that's one of the things that we see. The Olympics are there to showcase and test human performance at its highest levels.
Right.
And like the beauty behind the Senior Olympics is like they're the same things. The Senior Olympics are not different sports.
They're not. They're not. It's the same exact sports.
They're the same exact sports. It just shows like you can, like, if sports are like the ultimate expression of human movement, then we can see that like human movement shouldn't be limited by age.
Exactly.
And that's that can either be a very empowering thing, and I hope that hopefully it is, that like, man, like, yeah, I don't want to be the person who can't wipe my butt. Yeah. You know, I don't want to be the person who is afraid that if I fall, I'm not going to get up. Like, I don't want to be the person who feels like I'm a burden to my family. I want to be the person who can go along and do this thing that's right beside them, and my, you know, my grandkids or great grandkids are like, yeah, Grandpa, we'd love to go to do this thing with you. Yeah. You know, that is a possibility, and it's not too far reaching either.
Yeah, you mentioned that you know, aging is not a choice, right? But how you age is your choice. Yeah. And you know, I had this conversation with one of my therapists this morning, that not trying for fear of failure equals failure.
Yeah.
You know, because if you don't try, then there's no way you can succeed.
Yeah.
You know, so you know, I'm with him. Like, it took me. I got in a bad place around 38. I was just miserable. Might have been 35. Just miserable, not liking myself very much. And somebody talked me into signing up for a Tough Mudder. And I'm like, I don't even know what that is, but you know what? Let's do it, because I was an athlete in high school, and I was just not feeling it anymore.
Yeah.
And so it forced me to get into the gym and train. Yeah. And then from 35 to 38, I think I was in the best shape of my life by the time I was 40.
Yeah.
And running like 6 Spartan races, and you know, battle frogs and Tough Mudders and go rucks. It was awesome.
Yeah.
You know, and then I ripped my bicep at a doctor's visit.
Doing what?
I was at the doctor getting my shoulder checked out, and my bicep ruptured.
Like doing a
test? Doing a diagnostic test. Yeah, my bicep snapped. Yeah. That's pretty awesome.
Jeez.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome.
Yeah, man. I think that's.
It's pretty good now. It just looks a little funky, but yeah.
Torn bicep is not a bad thing for the physique, because it gives you a bit of a higher peak.
Yep.
Yeah, shortens it up a little bit. You have a little bit higher peak. I mean, it looks a little wonky in your sleeves, but when you flex it, it's like, dang, it's like a big old ball right there.
Big old ball. I did have surgery, because he's like, you know, you don't have to have surgery if you don't plan on doing anything. I'm like, dude, I plan on being active forever.
Yeah, I was like, I got another 40 years ago.
Let's go. You know, when is surgery?
That's awesome. All right, hey Jeremy, thanks for coming on the podcast. Where can people learn about your clinic and get in contact with you?
Absolutely. We have 3 locations. We're located in Cargill. That's our main clinic. We have one in Germantown and Hernando. Website's really easy. It's Pittman PT, short for physical therapy, pittmanpt.com. We're active on Facebook, Instagram, or you can give us a call at 901-850-5246. That one number, you can schedule an appointment at any location. But yeah, we're here in the community. Our mission is to help you live your greatest life now and in the future. So hopefully you don't get hurt, but if you do and need a little help, we're here to get you back.
Love it, man. All right, NBS Fitness Radio, out.
Thank you for listening to NBS Fitness Radio. If you enjoyed the podcast, be sure to share it with your friends, follow us on social media, and check out our website at www.nbsfitness.net. Hit the subscribe button and tune in next time for more NBS Fitness Radio.